Hey everybody, it's me. I'm back. I'm not exactly sure what happened there. I apparently lost my feed, so I'm going to just finish with a few final thoughts for the day. Um, we were talking today about Mercury and Venus's conjunction with one another, and we were talking also about what's to come later in the week that I'll be discussing. So I'm not sure exactly how I lost the feed there; it just sort of timed out. Um, let's see. So, yeah. Okay, good. Can you guys hear me again? Am I coming through okay? Someone could maybe type into the chat box that you've got me again. That would be great. I suddenly lost my feed, so I'm not exactly sure why that happened, but okay, great. Geraldine can hear me. Okay, wonderful. Okay. So as I was saying, later this week, we've covered everything pretty much today for Mercury and Venus. As I was saying, the Mercury Venus dynamic was intensifying over the weekend. You probably, and last week, you could have felt it quite a bit. It's perfecting now this week and is in a process of sort of flowing forth from the dynamic by tomorrow. So the rest of the week you'll be feeling this energy that I've been talking about from Mercury and Venus today, but other things will start coming through as well. For example, you'll have a Mercury Mars square coming up later in the week, and then when we move toward the full moon next week, there's between the full moon and the end of the month, there's another window where everything's just really rocking. Between the full moon and the last quarter moon of this month, it is a very dynamic period of time. So we will look forward to those things. There's one more thought that I'm going to leave you guys with, which is a simple way of conceptualizing transits that I learned from a bit from Robert Schmidt. So when I was on my way back from West Virginia, I had the opportunity to stop in Cumberland, Maryland, and pop in and pay Robert Schmidt and Ellen Black a visit. If you don't know, Robert Schmidt is the founder of Project Hindsight, which was a translation project that did a lot of work to revive some of the ancient doctrines of Hellenistic astrology. And he translated a great deal of the early Greek source material and also helped to repopularize concepts, methods, and ideas from Hellenistic astrology. So people like Dimitri George, Chris Brennan, Joseph Crane, Dorian Greenbaum, all of this cast of familiar sort of traditional astrologers were originally people who sort of came out of and were deeply inspired by Schmidt's work. And I've also taken the time to listen to an enormous amount of his audio lectures from the last couple of decades, and it's just amazing. He's really a unique thinker. And one of the ways that he talks about a way of conceptualizing a transit, you could say, is in terms of the ancient etiquette surrounding people that would come into your home as a guest. So if you were to, and this is true also in India, when I was in India, this was a big part of what I was able to learn. When you're a guest in somebody's home, there is a cultural norm that binds the guest to treat the host in a certain way and the host to treat the guest in a certain way. Right. So if I'm a guest in your home, in not just in India, but in ancient Greece and in ancient China and different parts of the world, there are social etiquettes and social norms that you follow that says a host treats the guest in a certain way when they're in your home, and the guest is expected to treat the host in a certain ways. So Schmidt was one of the first people to suggest that this guest host dynamic and that sort of implications of the guest host dynamic in the ancient world were at play when you put a planet in the house of another planet. So for example, right now, Mercury and Venus, which we've been talking about today, are in the sign of Scorpio, which is the house of Mars. So they are guests in the house of Mars, and Mars is their host. Okay, so one way of thinking about that conceptually could be that while Venus and Mercury, excuse me, are in the sign of Scorpio right now, they're in the house of Mars, which means they are asking to be received by and to be given something by Mars. So if I go to your home, like let's say maybe I expect that you feed me or something like that. Well, that's kind of a social etiquette that we go to each other's home, and it's part of the built-in but unspoken sort of expectation is that you offer me something. So when I'm in your home, you will take care of me and you will offer me something. You will try to meet my needs. So Venus and Mercury, right? What are they doing together? When they get together, let's say just very simply, they're talking, Mercury, about love, Venus. So they want to do that. That's the conversation that they want to have. And what they're doing is they're asking for Mars, the host of the house that they're in, to facilitate that for them, to provide for them. So when they're having their conversation, Mars can only appease them by offering them things that Mars can offer within his own house. What is Mars's nature? Division, conflict, strife, but also courage, bravery, battle, competition. So Venus and Mercury want to have a conversation about love, Mercury, Venus, and yet they're going to be the way that will be provided for them by Mars will be through the activities of conflict, competition, confrontation, division, etc. So that's a very simple way of thinking about how any transit, like a planet going through somebody else's house, may want to behave like themselves. Like Mercury wants to do Mercury things, Venus wants to do Venus things, but then the planet says, and I'm asking that this other planet will take care of my needs, that they will, as a good host, that they will satisfy my needs. So the other part of this is that we won't go into this now, but you always are also going to look, not just saying, well, Mars will provide Venus and Mercury for their they're going to have a conversation about love, and Mars is going to provide for them. Well, what can Mars give them? You can give them conflict, competition, and a certain kind of edge, a fearlessness or a courage. Okay, so that's what Mars is giving them. That's how Mars is providing for them. But we can also always look at where Mars is located. What sign is Mars in, and what kind of aspectual relationship does Mars have to Mercury and Venus? And that fills in the story a lot more. So right now, Venus and Mercury are in a square with Mars, and Mercury applying to a square with Mars, which means there is a little bit of a confrontation, you could say right now, between the guest and the host, right? It's subtle, but there's the guest host, there's a little bit of tension. Okay, so you can think about that and play with it, and we'll play with that more over the course of this week, because when I was reminded of that idea by Robert Schmidt's talks and his realm of sort of decoding ancient astrology, I thought, yeah, that is just the best way of thinking about it, the etiquette of how a guest treats a host and how a host treats a guest. So Lisa says, show me you love me with your actions. Yes, that is, there it is with Mars, right? And Mars may be a little bit reticent about that with some square to, a square to Mercury and Venus. There might be a little begrudging feeling in the air about that. But at any rate, you get the idea. So I don't know why my live cast stopped early, but I am sorry you had to listen to this in two parts. And I hope that you all have a very nice week. Like I said, we'll be back again later this week for, I'll be doing a short video tomorrow on the new moon that'll be on my YouTube channel, along with some written content not on the new moon, the first quarter moon. And then we'll get back together later in the week for Mercury's square to Mars. Okay, take care, everyone. Bye.